Welcome to Half a Point, the podcast that saw Richmond pull off the upset against Cuss's Blues. That's right. In today's episode, we'll be breaking down all of the round one games and giving our five picks for the round two lines. To help me break it down, I am joined by my co-host Carlton superfan Cuss. Mate, how you feeling? Recovered yet?
I don't know what you're talking about, man. Don't. It's a tough week for me.
All right, buddy. We'll dig into it, mate. But before I roast cuss any further, please leave a like on this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on the socials. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on X, so give us a follow there. And also a reminder to please gamble responsibly. All right, mate, let's get straight into it. Round one recap. Richmond versus Carlton. Richmond 82, Carlton 69. Richmond win by 13 points. Mate, what the hell? I looked at the line when you guys were up 40 and it was minus 74 and a half. I put it in the chat and then Richmond ended up winning by 13, an 87-point swing. Man, at a stage there, it was looking like Carlton by how many? I was like, man, oh, I should have hammered that minus 40 and a half. Had a great number there. I was ruining it, but then in a blink of an eye, mate, 22 Carlton players just absolutely crapped the bed and Richmond just found a way to come back and actually win. As they were kicking those goals, everyone was thinking, "Oh, this is nice. Oh, they're getting a couple of the youngsters kicking a couple of goals. This is nice." And then it's like, "Oh, okay, 3 goal margin. Okay, Carlton will win the last. All good." And then they just kept going, and then it came to a point where Richmond were just the better team in the end. Like I've never seen anything like it. It was the biggest upset I've ever seen in my whole entire life, mate. You go for an absolutely embarrassment of a football club. I can't believe you barrack for these guys week after week. This is actually unbelievable, mate.
Are
You
you
and the
done?
worst part is the worst part. Let me finish. The worst part is this guy, the last couple of weeks was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to the game. Oh yeah, I'm going to the game, mate." I hope you're happy, mate. I hope you're happy. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I'm done now. I'm done now.
All right, good. Oh, mate, that is one of the worst few hours of my life. It was just crazy. Like we're all up and about, after the first quarter, and after the first half of the second quarter, and then it was just downhill. Like that, it was sort of like our players couldn't kick, our players couldn't catch a ball. They didn't know where each other were. We were second to the contest every time. Had no idea what was going on. And you'd think, just go back to the basics, just kick mark. Like it's not that hard. Mate, we found a way to make it hard. We found a way to just turn it over every single opportunity. Oh, it was disgusting.
Mate, when were you like, oh, we might lose this?
Like halfway through the third, I was like, oh
Yeah.
shit. I was like,
Dude, it
it's
was
not looking good. And then like it's such a momentum swing as well. And we know it's like Carlton have previously struggled with like momentum swings, how to get back on that good side. But yeah, shambles, man.
mate, it was unbelievable. Shout out Mitch McGovern, mate. Probably one of the worst games I've ever seen by a
Yeah,
professional
there's
athlete.
a
What the
few
hell
few
was that?
contenders there as well.
You contenders, yeah, like the whole team. I've never seen anything like it. It was unbelievable.
There was
Pr
so much input from like the whole team, and then all of a sudden it's just everyone disappeared except, you could say Silvani, Wiedering, and DeConning groups as well, but everyone else just disappeared.
Yeah, the pressure just got to you guys. Like this young Richmond side just found a way to like pressure you guys. They were always one step ahead. They
Yeah.
were the ones that were able to find space and counter attack. So it was an unbelievable comeback. 41 points down as well. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know if I've ever seen an 87-point swing like that.
Mm.
And that's that. And 49 and a half points is what they closed at. I've Last year, I think the biggest upset were the point spread might have been like 35 and a half. It might have been a West Coast Fremantle derby. We also had the Richmond Adelaide one, which is like 33 and a half. So this was 49 and a half, and it was the first game of the season. So it
Yeah,
was
unbelievable.
unbelievable. Pretty unprecedented. Any other thoughts on that game before we move on?
Nah, let's move on, mate. Let's
Yeah,
move
let's
on.
move on. Let's move
Yeah.
on. Let's move on. Well, we'll break down the numbers actually before. I just wanted to roast cuss at the start. We'll break down the round one numbers. Chalk actually won. Like other than that upset, I think the favorites won every other game. We had the Adelaide Crows cover as home favorites. We had a couple of away favorites cover. Away favorites went 2-1 against the spread, and the one that didn't win, which was the Giants, only lost by half a point. So pretty good week for Chalk. Um, so if you did well this week, congratulations, but maybe have a look at what kind of sides you're picking. All right, we'll move on to the second game of the round. It was Hawthorn Essendon. Hawthorn won by 26 points there. The line was 21 and a half. I felt like Essendon and the points was the right side. They played well enough to win. They definitely played well enough to cover. I felt like we were unlucky there. It goes your way, doesn't go your way sometimes. Essendon played quite well overall, but just wasn't able to sort of apply the pressure when they were, or sort of like convert when they had the opportunities. That happens when you come up against good sides. And this is the life of betting on bad teams. Like this is the reason why they're bad. So it's really frustrating when they actually play really well, but don't show it on the scoreboard. But yeah, that's the life of betting these bad teams. What do you think about that game?
Yeah, so I was on Essendon as well, so bit disappointing, but yeah, it can happen sometimes. You can't win every game, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Moving on to Geelong Fremantle.
Yeah, so it's pretty dominant performance from the Cats there. Pretty much had the game over in the first half. Bit of fight back with the 4 goals from their debutant. Murphy Reed was it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, towards the
four
end
in
of
six
the
minutes.
yeah, towards the end of that third quarter, but then in the fourth quarter, Geelong showed up, put them away. Won it pretty easily, covered pretty easily as well.
Yeah, hammering. Moving on to Sydney Brisbane, mate. This is why you got to tune into half a point. We said Brisbane at 3.5 is the spot, and then we said if this closes around 6 or 7, jump on Sydney. What happens? It lands on 4. We hit a middle, mate. Unbelievable handicapping by us at half a point. This is why you got to tune in every week. We it's a numbers game. We say every week it's a numbers game. We had 2 games covered by just half a point, and we're on the right side of both of them. It's not always going to fall your way, but this time it did. Mate, I was hating it when Sydney got off to that hot start, 24, I think 4 goals to none. I wasn't really concerned. Like
Mm.
I don't know how you saw it, but I wasn't really like this is a dead bet. Where some teams they get off to like a pretty bad start, and you're like, oh, this is a dead bet. But I didn't feel that way with Sydney. How'd you feel?
Yeah, pretty much the same. They got off to a really good start actually. And yeah, I guess you can never just count out the Premiership side. They're a good team for a reason. And they came back and gave us that win.
Yeah, exactly. The better team. Dogs North.
Yeah, I think the line here was about 20 and a half.
Yeah.
And they were just flirting with that line the whole fourth quarter. It was goal for goal. Couldn't really break them apart. And then eventually North did manage to cover, which um, I thought I was on North the whole time, but apparently I wasn't.
This guy's
So,
over at my house. He's like, yes, North scored. I'm like, mate, you're not on this game.
and we only found out like towards the end of the game. I
Yeah.
was like, what am I sweating for?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good from North to cover that game.
Yeah. If you went with the Bulldogs, not a bad pick there either. I'd go with the away game. Collingwood, Port Adelaide. Collingwood ended up hammering Port Adelaide, which I know I said that in the podcast last week, but after filming, I felt quite scared. I don't know, like all the other numbers moved. This one didn't move. I sort of expected it to close around 12 and a half. But it didn't. There was some respectable money coming in on Port. Obviously, but so it sort of scared me off a little bit. But turns out our instincts were right. We jumped on Collingwood -8.5. Really good bet. In the end, they end up hammering Port. What happened with my Adelaide Crows and the Saints, mate?
Mate, the Adelaide, you got to ride them, mate. You didn't put your trust in them, and they showed you what's up. It's like they were listening in the podcast, eh?
Mate, I know they're my Adelaide Crows, but I had to fade them. You know, it's Ross Lyon as a dog. You know, hey, round two picks. I'll have more to say. I have more to
Yeah,
say about that. Like, I'm not jumping off Adelaide, mate. I said they're gonna be in the top 14. They look like
yeah,
a
yeah.
top
Of
four
course,
team round
yeah.
one, didn't they? So everyone jumping on the bandwagon. Everyone called me crazy. Everyone said bro shouldn't predict anymore or something in our TikTok comments. So you guys will see eventually.
Yeah.
Finally, Melbourne GWS. Oh, mate, what a game. One of the games of the round. Melbourne should have won this game. Like, I think if we didn't cover, we'd be really unlucky.
Mm.
Melbourne were the better team overall. Um, Giants, really good win for the Giants there. We get the 3.5. That's why it's a numbers game, everyone. This one actually went up to 8.5. Right before first bounce with Stephen May being a late withdrawal. But I think I was messaging you at the time and I said, mate, I'm still hammering Melbourne at 8.5 now. I'm just getting a better number. I didn't really care. And turned out 8.5 covered as well. So really good read again. That's one of those smash spots. It was close in the end, but I feel like we deserved that cover. They were the better
Yeah,
team on the day.
absolutely.
All right, moving on to round two. We both went 3-2 last week.
Hmm.
So winning weeks, that's what we're here to do. 3-2 every week is what we're aiming for. We're not going to get it every week, but overall, trying to go around 57% against the spread. That's what we're aiming for. So we're 60%, both of us against the spread. So really good start. Yeah, we'll just try to keep that up all season long. All right, moving on to round two. We have Carlton Hawthorn Thursday night footy
Oof.
at the G. The last time they played, Carlton were 2.5 point favorites at the MCG and they got pumped by 74. The
Yeah.
line for this Thursday night, as it currently stands, is Carlton plus 16.5. Where you going, mate?
Not really sure about this one. Honestly, I thought the line would be bigger, maybe like in the 20s. But yeah, like I said, we witnessed the worst ever game by Carlton last week. Absolutely shocking. So, and then also Hawthorn on the other hand had a really good win, a really dominant performance there. I'd hope the Blues can bounce back a little bit. Not necessarily win, but cover the line. And we know the story of Thursday Night Dogs as well. They usually come out on top. So yeah, I think it's possible that a lot more people will jump on Hawks closer to the actual game for the bounce. Um, so yeah, you can see what happens there, but I think I will jump on the Blues here without much confidence at all.
Is this going to be one of your five?
Is not sure, not sure.
Mate, make a one of your five. Give me Carlton to beat Hawthorn straight up. I love Carlton plus 16.5 in this spot. Mate, you broke it down perfectly. Everyone is talking this Carlton team down, myself included, which I 5 minutes ago. Mate, it's a huge overreaction, mate. It's round one. If you want to peak at the right time. So I'm not concerned at all about this Carlton team. Yep, they laid an egg in the second half in round one, mate. This is still a really good side. I'm expected them to bounce back here. They've just been thinking about this the whole week. 16.5 points, they definitely cover this number. I'm saying that they're going to win. They might not, but they're definitely covering this number. Definitely take the points here. You're getting a huge inflated line here. Like just as you said, this should be maybe like under a goal, I'm saying. If you really handicap these teams properly.
Yeah.
Um, Hawthorn start the season 2-0 ATS. They were ATS covering Kings last season as well. So I'm really shocked that the market hasn't caught up yet. I think this is the week. I think we catch Hawthorn off guard, and I think the Blues win outright and beat the Hawks on Thursday night footy. Just like you said, Thursday night dogs, they've been on a roll. They started 1-0 with Richmond covering last week. So yeah, absolutely love it. My favorite pick of the week, give me Carlton and the points here. All right, moving on to Western Bulldogs Collingwood. Friday night at the G. This is the Western Bulldogs celebration game. I think 100 years Footscray, something like
Yeah.
that. Um, Last time they played, Bulldogs closed at 1.5 point favorites, and they won by 18. They opened early in the week as like plus 10.5 dogs that last year, and then they closed as favorites. So a bunch of money came on the Bulldogs, with good reason too, because they ended up winning. In this case, the line is plus 10.5 for the Bulldogs. Um, Give me the Bulldogs and the points, and give me Bulldogs to cause the upset here. I'm going for two upsets Thursday, Friday. One of them's going to get up. This is just that. This is just a a hammer spot for the Bulldogs. I just feel like it's their all or nothing game. Like it's just huge emotional connotations. Collingwood coming off a huge win against Port, just absolutely feeling themselves. I'm more confident about Carlton winning than I am with the Bulldogs. I feel like the Bulldogs cover, but Collingwood's pretty good situationally, so I sort of trust them maybe to win the game. But give me Western Bulldogs on the points here. This number should be actually 10.5 is probably right. But I think that it's just a good spot for the Bulldogs here. They don't really play at the MCG that often. I feel like it's a high effort game for everyone. Everyone's sort of still counting them out a little bit. So yeah, I'm going with the Bulldogs and the points. Yeah, where are you going?
Yeah, somewhat agree. Yeah, I was sort of tossing up between, at first I was initially with the Pies. I think how they performed last week was really impressive. They pretty much doubted everyone in the media. And yeah, I was happy to jump on them, but yeah, like you said, it's a big game for them. 100 years. They're changing the name to Footscray as well, just for heritage sake. And yeah, I'm gonna side with dogs here. Probably won't be in my top five, just because I lack so much confidence with this pick. But yeah, it should be a really close game.
Yeah, it opened at like 5.5, I think, and I actually jumped on Collingwood then. I thought that was a
Mm.
pretty good number, but yeah, as the week's gone on, I'm just gonna jump on Bulldogs here. Yeah, gonna leave that Collingwood. I'm gonna leave that Collingwood one alone. Maybe I'll hit a nice little middle, but I didn't get too much down on it before the line moved. All right, moving on to Essendon versus Adelaide at the MCG, Saturday afternoon game. Um, the last time they played, Essendon were 15.5 points. That was our first podcast last year and the very first game, and we called that Adelaide will win the game. One of the best moments in half a point history. They ended up winning by 2 points. In this case, it's at the MCG. Essendon are 7.5 point dogs. Cuss, who you got for this one?
Um, Look, Essendon were pretty poor last week. In comparison to like the Crows, who absolutely demolished their opponent. They are playing at home and everything, so I want to ride the team that's playing at home. They're the underdogs. Um, but then I also really like Adelaide as a pick as well, just because they did perform really well last week, and I don't think that's just a one-off thing. I think, what did you say the line was for this one?
7.5
Seven and a
Essendon are
half, yeah.
dogs.
So yeah, I think really unsure with this one. I think I might give it to the end of the week, but right now I'm going with Essendon. But that could very easily be swayed with a bit more thought put into it.
Yeah, very, very fair. I'm pretty much the same as you. Not sure, kind of a go either way. I'm staying away from this. Mate, this last week was Adelaide plus 1.5. If it was Adelaide plus 1.5 now, I'd be hammering Adelaide as dogs. As soon as they switch to favorites as principal, I'm just not gonna do it. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna go with another away favorite. I hated Brisbane last week. I just can't do it. You can sort of look at this a couple of ways. You can sort of say, oh yeah, I'm projecting Essendon to be a bottom four side. I'm projecting Adelaide to be a top four side. This number should be way higher. I'm getting a good number. But you could also say it's an away favorite. So
yeah,
that's sort of how I'm looking at it. I was tempted to jump on Essendon, but I just can't do it. I'm still going to call myself the Essendon Whisperer, even though we lost last week. I know the streak came to an end, but I'm still going to ride with it and hope no one
yeah,
notices. Um, but yeah, it's a stay away for me. Don't really hate either side. Probably lean Essendon, but again, not really sure, so I've stayed away from it. Moving on to Port Adelaide versus Richmond Saturday afternoon at the Adelaide Oval. Last time they played what were 43.5 point favorites and they won by 41. So Richmond ended up covering. This time around, they're 37.5 point favorites. This one was in the 40s, I think, before Port got schmacked and Richmond beat Carlton. So it's come all the way down to 37.5. I'm staying away from this one. Um, by principle, like Richmond coming off a huge emotional win, and Port Adelaide getting smashed. This is you and Port coming back home. You ordinarily hammer Port here, and I wouldn't hate that pick, but Teams bouncing back as home favorites, I don't think is a great historical bet. We saw it a few times last year and it didn't go too well. Maybe this Port team is really bad, and this Hinkley situation is not as good as people perceive as they were last year. So, and maybe this Richmond team, maybe that wasn't a one-off. Maybe they're like better than people think. Maybe in a few years' time, this team's going to be another dynasty, and they've
Yeah.
just picked up like three young guns. But by principle, I definitely go with Port here. As I said at the start, huge emotional win, bounce back spot for Port. So yeah, but I'm staying away from it. How about you?
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. I think it's a really good opportunity for to bounce back here for Port, and show Richmond how an actual AFL team plays. But no, I think playing away from home in front of such a
Port's playing
hostile.
Richmond, not Carlton.
All right. But yeah, playing in front of a hostile crowd, I think will add to a little bit as well in terms of like pressure and whatnot on the Tigers. Yeah, and I actually, yeah, like you said, the line was huge, like earlier, but it's come down quite a lot. So I would go with Port here as well. But yeah, it's a tough one for me as well.
Yeah, you're getting a good number. So if it is that Richmond's really bad and Port's decent, then you're getting a pretty good number in the 30s. But yeah, stay away for today.
Yep.
Moving on to St Kilda versus Geelong, 7:35 at Marvel Stadium. Um, Last time they played, Geelong were 9.5 point favorites, and the Saints absolutely cut them up in the second half. We called that upset. It was one of the end rounds right before finals were starting, and we managed to call it here at half a point. So we were reading Saints really well last season. They laid an egg last week against Adelaide. The line for this game is 23 and a half. Saints are dogs. Where are you going?
I think the Saints will cover this one here. We saw what they did against last year. You said it perfectly. I'm not saying that they'll win the game because we know like what a good team Geelong is. But I think it's a line that they can very much cover. And like you said, Ross Lyon is really good at covering the line. So yeah, I think they'll bounce back and put up a good performance this week and cover the line.
Yep, perfect, mate. That's exactly right. I can't quit this St Kilda team. I know they let me down last time as 20-point dogs. Sorry, last week. I'm jumping on them again. Give me the Saints plus the points here. Yeah, getting a great number. In the 20s. This should be in the late teens. Um, Obviously they're coming off a schmacking, and Geelong are coming off a huge win. Perfect bounce back spot here for the Saints. As you said, I'm not sure if they pull off the win. I don't hate their money line. Like I'd throw it in maybe. But yeah, definitely take the points here. Yeah, pretty easy read. Again, as you said, Ross Lyon as a dog, just insane ATS. Just because he let me down last week, that doesn't mean I'm going to quit him. He'd have to let me down a few times for me to sort of seriously consider jumping off.
Yep.
I just think that's a little bit of an aberration, not a trend. So yeah, give me the Saints and the points for that game. All right, moving on to Brisbane versus West Coast, Sunday 1:10 p.m. at the Gabba. Last time they played, Brisbane were 31 and a half points favorites at Optus, and Brisbane won by 13. I think that was the game where West Coast had a new coach, so that new coach bump.
Mm.
In this case, Brisbane are 60 and a half point favorites at home. Give me Brisbane minus 60 and a half. This just feels like murder. Like
Yeah.
it just feels like an absolute smacking. Like this actually opened at like 48 and a half last week, and a bunch of money has been coming in on Brisbane. I didn't see it come back down until later today. It got to 60, and then I saw it come back down to the late 50s, but then it's gone back up to 60 again. So heavy money coming in on Brisbane here. And I think that's the right side. Like, as we say every week, like usually for team covers, like they usually end up covering by a lot. This just seems like a smash spot. I know I hate going with big favorites here, but it just feels like such a big mismatch. As I said, I'm projecting Brisbane to be a top four side. West Coast just didn't really have it last week, and I expect that to continue on the road here. They're a really bad road team last year, and I expect that to continue this year, this week as well. Yeah, where are you going?
Yeah, well said. I think I was a bit wary of the line at first, just because it is such a huge line. But you look at the two teams, like, you could say West Coast can bounce back from last week, but no, I just don't think they have that in them. Harley Reid was atrocious. He looks like he doesn't really give a shit and just wants to move on. So I expect that to come in the off season as well.
Mm.
But yeah, I think Brisbane, they'll be playing their first game at home here as well. So expect a big game, lots of goals. I reckon they'll cover it pretty easily.
Yeah, exactly. They had a few injuries last week, which is a little bit concerning, but
Yeah.
they have their like middle 18 players are pretty good and
Yep.
way better than West Coast. So yeah, give me it just feels like a murder here. So yeah, give me Brisbane minus the points here. All right, moving on to North Melbourne versus Melbourne Sunday afternoon game at Marvel Stadium. Last time they played, Melbourne were 30.5 point favorites, and they ended up winning by three. It was that crazy North Melbourne comeback in the fourth quarter there. I was on Melbourne that game, pretty bad read. The line in this case, Melbourne are favored by 19.5. Where are you going?
Um, I, I think I like Melbourne here in this spot. Like they were very unlucky to lose last week. They should have won that pretty easily. They almost didn't cover either because the ball was in their D50 in the last minute.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, they're definitely going to win on that one. They're going to want to capitalize on this game here and put away North. And I expect a big win here. I'm calling 30 points, 30-point win to Melbourne.
Oh, okay, interesting. No read for me. This game I have like absolutely no read on. Like other
Mm.
games I have some thoughts. This game I have no thoughts. So, um, good luck, bro. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Moving on to Fremantle, Sydney. Sunday night game at Optus Stadium. Last time they played, Sydney were 27.5 point favorites at home, and Fremantle ended up pulling off the upset there at the SCG. There was a kick after the siren that I think ended up missing or fell short, something like that. In this case, Fremantle are 7.5 point favorites. Give me Fremantle minus 7.5 here, wearily. I wanted to be on Sydney so bad. But as I said last week, I just don't think the market's caught up to how bad this Sydney team is.
Mm.
Like everyone's sort of saying like, oh yeah, they face the best two teams and they'll be fine. I don't think so. Like, yep, they were home dogs last week and they didn't cover. It was a really good spot last week and they didn't cover. They got pumped by Hawthorn. Both home games now they're going on the road. Fremantle coming off a smacking. So they're gonna be up and about, ready to play. So I don't know. This number sort of, I think, opened at 5.5. Money's been coming in. I've seen a couple 9.5s out there as well. So get the best number. 7.5. I'm taking it. It's under 10. If this was in the teens, which I expected it to be, I would have been on Sydney. But as I said, I just don't think the market's caught up to how bad this Sydney team is. So I think I'm getting a good number. Might be stepping in it here, but as I said, like earlier on, like um, favorites coming on a bounce back spot didn't really do well last year, which is why I was a little bit weary of this. But yeah, give me Fremantle minus the points here. I just think I'm getting a good number. What do you think?
Yeah, I didn't have much of a read on this one. But yeah, I would hop on Freo here if it really comes down to my fifth pick. Um, because yeah, like you said, I rated Sydney pretty highly at the start of the year. Sort of much like the media, but you sort of see what they put up and it's not very attractive. So yeah, I'm looking towards more the Fremantle side. Yeah, but like I said, that would probably be my fifth pick. If I can squeeze it in.
Yeah, that's fair, mate. It's I'm just gonna just like you rode Hawthorn last year, mate. We're on fade Sydney watch. I
Yeah,
faded them against Hawthorn, faded them last week against Brisbane. I'm fading them again here. We're at hashtag fade Sydney here. Yeah, I'm gonna see how long it lasts. It'll be kind of fun to see how
yeah.
long it takes for the market to catch up to see how bad this Sydney team is. I
Mm,
said they're not a top eight side in preseason, and I'm making my picks based on that
yeah.
projection. All right. We'll Summer hours are five. Do you have a tentative sort of five that you're thinking with?
Um, so I'd go with Melbourne. I'd
Mm,
go with Brisbane.
mm.
Saints, possibly. I might chuck Dogs, and Carlton somewhere in there. Uh, so no, I don't have a final five.
Right.
Just yeah, I'm not really sure this one.
Well,
I
mine's
need
actually
some
pretty
time.
similar. So I'm definitely going Carlton. That's my favorite pick. Western
Yeah,
Bulldogs definitely. St Kilda as dogs definitely. Brisbane and Fremantle as well. So three dogs and two favorites. Again, like I said last week, I usually like to go four dogs and a favorite. I just can't see another dog out there. Maybe if you want to throw something in there,
yeah.
it'd be a good one. But yeah, they're the ones I'm going with. All right,
Uh,
Cuss, closing thoughts for as we look ahead to round two.
Look, let's hope for another positive week. At least 3-2. Maybe hit the 4-1. But nah, I think it'd be a good week of footy. Hopefully the Blues bounce back as well. Far out. Don't want to watch them dish up another terrible performance like that ever again.
Yeah, hopefully for our sake. Yeah, definitely. I think I want a few dogs to win this week. Like last Chalk just won last week, so
Yeah.
hopefully we get a few upsets. And yeah, it will be some good entertaining footy. As a reminder, please leave a like on this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on our socials, and until next time, see you later.